Right, welcome. Why do I always say right first?
Right, left,
No.
middle.
Welcome to this week's episode
Up,
of the...
up, down, down. That's
Shut
wrestling.
Up. It's not.
Fuck
Lad and
you.
Dad
Yeah, it is
podcast.
wrestling.
What you been up to this week?
Fuck all.
Just watching football. That's literally all you've done.
In fact, it's playoff week at the time of filming, isn't it?
Yes, you've not been training
I literally just trained.
today,
Yeah.
but for the rest of the week...
Once a week, that's fine. I train more than once a week. This is a one-off because it's all football. And I think day of filming is either FA Cup final today or tomorrow. I would check, but my phone's dead.
I've not paid any attention because...
England.
Because Lincoln had a shit season, so...
It wasn't all too bad. It's just we're losing all our players.
Oh, we will be. Yeah, 100%.
Irahan, O'Connor, they're definitely gone.
Rowan
will be gone.
Yeah. Clucas is gone.
Yeah.
They've already
That
announced that he's
Zayna
going.
Coro's got interest by Championship and Premier League clubs, apparently.
So we either need to spend a lot of money or we fucked it for next season.
I mean, that Rob Street did well at Doncaster. So he's going to be another Freddie Draper and be shit in League One. Come on!
No, let's just keep some hope and touch the wood and everything that we need to do.
There's no way this is wood.
It's actually wood. Yeah, it's just cheap wood.
Really?
Why is there a picture of a penis
On the table.
the
I got
Why have you
porn.
got a pen in your hand?
I got...
Your mum started drawing on it. Now you've drawn on it.
Yeah, but
anyway, we're
this
here.
one will just disappear. Oh, no, it won't.
No, it
Well,
won't.
there's a penis on the table forever now, guys.
We're
Well
here
done.
to introduce this week's episode.
Yeah.
So before we do that, nothing interesting to eat. Just air fryer
We went
food,
to that
I'm
Greek
assuming.
place.
We did Greek Bros, yeah. Greek Brothers.
That was good. I had cheese, chicken and chips, but it was still good.
I had the chicken. I don't know what it's called. Something Greek.
Do you know what?
It was really nice.
We went to a Greek place and didn't get halloumi.
No, but I had the Greek salad and the chicken.
I really like halloumi.
It was really good.
I think it's a recurring thing that I like halloumi now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I've had that was really nice. Just Bake It, round the corner from our gym.
Mm.
Chicken
Won't take me
tikka-
though, will you?
No. Chicken tikka, jacket potato. Incredible.
Why don't you just take me?
Because you don't eat anything on the menu except for the cake.
You're going to a bakery for cake.
No, I'm going there for the jacket potato.
It's called Just Bake It. You can have
the
a
cakes
brownie.
are incredible. We
Let
have
me
had
have
the
a
brownies
brownie,
and stuff from
goddammit.
there. We have had them, your mum and I. We brought you one for WrestleMania.
Hashtag give me a brownie. Put it in the comments.
We actually did it for the WrestleMania. We even said it on here.
I know, it was good. That's why I still want another one.
Use your own money.
I don't have any money.
Well, unlucky.
Get it in the comments.
So if this hasn't interested you to do 5 stars on all the podcast platforms and recommend us and review us and share and all the other subscribing things that you can do, I don't know what else we can do, really.
Mm.
Oh, I know what we can do. We can introduce this week's interview.
Why interview guest? We're not
Guest.
interviewing, we just chat shit for a couple hours.
Wanted to sound a bit posher than what we are.
We aren't posh. We sit here, there's a sofa there, we chat shit. It's great. One of the questions that you have set, right, and I think this is a debuting thing for this week's episode, is Tesco meal deal, right?
No, it's been everyone.
Yeah, we didn't do it for the first one. You didn't ask me my Tesco meal deal.
No, because you're from the autism menu.
It's a cheese sandwich. That's why.
There's no cheat code for yours.
When is there ever a cheat code for a meal deal?
A cheat code is when you get the more expensive items, so it means you save the most money.
Cheese sandwich, chili heatwave Doritos, Pepsi Max. Anything more, and that's just too much.
Well, this week's guest. Do you want to say how you found going up there? Because we didn't do it in here.
We're not good at England. Yeah, we went to one Mr. Nathan Cruz's house to do this, which was somewhat different. He's got a great dog. He talks.
It was like
I
a
don't know,
seminar
yeah.
for you, wasn't it?
It was like you ask him a question, he goes down 3 different tangents, and you're all learning something from everything. So we're probably, I don't know if the decision's been made yet. Maybe, may not be a 2-part.
No, it is 100%. It's a
100% a 2-parter.
We sat down for just over 3 hours.
Yeah.
And when we got back in the car on the way home, he turned to me and said, well, that was like a private seminar and a road trip, because on wrestling road trips you tend to have the stories and learn a lot, talk a lot, learn about the business. And for Ian, it was like a seminar and
Wrestling
that road
name's
trip.
Dickhead.
all into one. So it was a great learning experience for you. So hopefully, if you're new to wrestling or if you've been in wrestling for a while, this will give you something to learn as well as to listen to. I think Nathan's such a, and we say it in the episode. To me, he's the top of British wrestling. Like I've watched him for many years, both on shows and doing hires and being on our shows and all these different aspects of seeing Nathan. I think everybody can learn from him. So, hopefully you can enjoy this, but learn as well if you're in the wrestling business.
Brew up. This will be a long one.
So yeah, enjoy this and give us your feedback. Next week's will be Nathan again, the second part. And yeah, just let us know your feelings and thoughts on this first episode with Nathan.
Yeah.
So here's the interview.
I'm not the interview, I'm me, but we'll cut to it now.
Here's the chat. It's not an interview, it's a chat.
Yeah.
So here's the chat. Right, hi, welcome back, and we've got our guest, Mr. Nathan Cruz.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's like the quickest intro we've ever done. Wow,
We filmed the proper intro.
We've smashed that, Jesus.
So, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Life's at the moment incredible. Like, it really is. Like, feel very blessed. I've got a lot of stuff going on, opportunity-wise within wrestling. Well, and also my personal life. Me and my wife recently got married, so I'm just living a dream. Like, yeah, like Cloud9.
Yeah, it's. We saw the pictures of the wedding and looked incredible.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we were supposed to do it in 2020, and then something happened.
Yeah,
I can't remember. I wonder what that was.
Exactly. It was horrible. Because we had this. We'd saved for ages to do it. We always knew we wanted to do it abroad, and the idea was Jamaica because my mum's always wanted to see it. So I was like, okay, two birds, one stone, and then that happened. And me being a self-employed professional wrestler. TUI, I don't mind burying them for this, they held on to the money till like 6 weeks after we should have flown. It was like building up to, we know this isn't going to happen, look at the world, it's in the lockdown, right? And even if we do have this wedding, what's it going to be like? Everyone's going to be 6 feet apart. So it was, long story short, they held on to the money for so long that I was having to pay bills on a credit card because I'm no longer earning any money as a professional wrestler. And then when I got the money back, cleared said credit card, and it was just a case of saving again. But everything, I always of the faith, everything happens for a reason, right? And whatever that might be, I like the timing right now, as mixed as it is, it's just, I'm just so grateful because I think of like how bad things got during those COVID years. For me personally, like I've only ever been a pro wrestler. That's, I've had little jobs here and there, but like when it comes to a trade or anything like that, I'm an unskilled worker. Like, my skill is pro wrestling. So there was a real bad time there between like coming out of the lockdown and like and to see now like where my life has come, because since then it's just I'm just lucky every day. Look at her as well. I don't know if the camera could pick her up, but yeah, Pepper, she's my little beagle. She's cuddle up to me.
Might be able to just spot her.
She moves her head every now and then, I'm sure.
You know what? We can whack a picture in. Yeah.
I'm sure if
that's a him job,
right?
If the postman
comes, they'll hear her.
So, you've got the thing there. So what we do normally is just have a little conversation with you about how life is. So we've already started that.
Yeah.
Anything that you wanted to say your story, so people who already know you know a little bit more, or people who don't know you get a grasp. So anything you want to put across to the camera and the viewers, this is your time to just have a conversation, really.
Okay. I mean, my career, or just
wrestling, personal life, anything you're happy to sort of talk about.
I mean, I am an open book. Like, people, if you know me, actually, Nathan, not the character, which I think that was just one thing that like for the longest time people did, because I mean, me, like the type of wrestling I like to do. I want to make it as believable as possible, and that doesn't just mean in my actions in the ring. Back when I used to wear the 3-piece suit and stuff like that, it was all because like if any fans saw Nathan Cruz, I want you to think that I genuinely think I'm above you. I'm an elitist fucking prick, and do you know what I mean? That was the character. He was a bad guy, right?
That's when wrestling's at its best, though, is when it's believable, and you
yeah,
truly
exactly. Like,
yeah.
and you know, sometimes, I mean, and don't get me wrong, there was definitely, I reflect on some of my behaviour back then personally and go, oh, do you know what I mean? Like, maybe there was a point where that Nathan Cruz character was kind of, where was the line? Where, you know, between reality and the character, 100%. But yeah, that was like the big thing for me back then, was always, I just wanted everything to be as believable as possible. Like, so if you're getting a bad guy version of Nathan Cruz, you're 100% getting, yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, you'd see me after the show, you'd see this, and the 3-piece suit thing all just started because when I first started with All Star Wrestling, like I said, I had I've had little jobs in between. So one of my first little jobs when I left college was working in a call center, and I had to wear a suit to that, right? So, and then one day I was finishing work, I had to go meet the car in Leeds and then go to the show. And Drew McDonald, who's no longer with us, God bless him, he saw me and he said, you know, why are you wearing the suit and stuff like that? And I said, oh, I just had work. And he was like, no, I think that's how we should be dressing. It's like, if we show up looking like slobs, he was like, we're supposed to be stars of the show. And it always stuck with me. And at the time, he was the European talent scout for the WWE. And that was why this is where I want to get to. So I was like, well, if Drew's saying it, right, I'm listening. And that was where the start of that all became. And, you know, a lot of that professionalism and that ethos, it came from not just Drew, but the All-Star team, of how they, you know, it was a full-time job. You were on the road the vast majority. I mean, we did, I think it was like 120 days a year was the amount that you'd be away, but then you'd obviously be doing 2 or 3 shows a day in some of those as well. So there was just a professionalism that was always carried there that I loved and I respected, because it was like, it's a fun job, but it's still a job. And that was where I really learned that from, and that professional mindset and that attitude towards it. And any brushings that I had with WWE, you know, in that early stage of my career, it was like affirmed by them that is how things are. Do you know what I mean? Like, silly things that I never would have thought of, like brushing your teeth before a match. Sounds like the first time I seen people doing that All-Star, I was like, oh shit, this is, you know, right. And when someone explains to us, like, yeah, do you know, like, how close we've got to be to each other, and like passing messages in the ring and stuff. Yeah, do you want somebody with onion breath breathing into your ear, or do you want somebody, you know, minty fresh? And just little things like that was like, yeah, there's, you know, your personal hygiene really. And I mean, not that I was a scruff or anything like that. Like, I'd always spray deodorant and a bit of scent before I made sure I'm clean. But yeah, just the brushing of the teeth was just something that I'd never picked up on. I never thought of, sorry, you know, when I seen it, it was like, well, duh, yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just little things like that. And I could go on a list forever about how, and I probably will throughout this interview, just how influential All-Star was of me developing, not just as a wrestler, but growing from a teenage kid to, you know, a 20-year-old man, and to this day when I go back now in my 30s, and I'll always have a huge, like, Brian Dixon's one of the most influential people in my life. Like, I when he passed in 2023, and I think back to everything that I have in my life now, I think in some way it goes back to Brian. Do you know what I mean? Like, my brushings with WWE, where I'm going now with this opportunity that I've got, and I wouldn't have got that opportunity if I'd not met Cash Wheeler, who I'd met wrestling for Brian, who's now one of my, in Cash's, Daniel is one of my best friends. Like, and I feel so, you know, again, got all that from Brian. If he'd not given me that opportunity at 19 to make this my full-time job, and things that I did in wrestling after, I always remember John Briley and Jim Smallman, who started Progress Wrestling. They said the reason they chose me as their first champion is they came to watch an All-Star show at Gravesend, and I was on it, and they were like, he's our guy. And again, if it weren't for Brian, I wouldn't have been part of, and that is British wrestling history. There's no one can ever, like, unless they annul my first championship victory, like, that's never going to be taken away. That's always going to be something that's going to be remembered, and particularly because of the boom that we had in British wrestling in the early 2010s, and Progress was such a huge part of that. Like, again, I still, in such a huge part, all owe that to Brian, and it
was for me, like, I had a fallout with him. And I think it was actually on an All-Star show we were on together. It was after the show. We did Ipswich, and then the next day Skegness. And I think we were told we had to keep the first and second match running a little bit longer until you and the other guys
The
arrived.
Beast. Yeah, we were stuck in traffic. I remember this.
And the night before,
I think I've been told this story before.
there was everyone left me and a kid to take the ring down, and it was on the 3rd floor, and it was a real fun experience getting the ring out. And Becca had messaged Brian and thought, as Becca does, just give it everything. So the next day there was a bit of a fallout, but we did the job and everything. And so many things, I said to her, there was a lot that I learned from him, and I didn't work nowhere near as much as you did for Brian, but he was always so willing to help. And then just before he passed away, he called me and asked about a job in Scunthorpe, and he wanted my daughter to wrestle on the show, but she's in Liverpool now.
Okay.
So we used Aidan Drake, and he went there, and I actually got the chance to speak with Brian, and we made up, and it was amazing to say, like, before he passed away, we actually managed to just bury it all.
I mean, that was one thing I loved so much about him. He never held a grudge. I had fallen out with Brian a couple of times, and over one thing or another, and he'd always just, what's the point in holding on to a grudge? And and like, I thought, God, I wish more promoters were like him. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've had Brian screaming at me one day, and then the next day, okay, Cruz, good job, and just shake my hand, and just like, yeah, he was just a great, for those who actually got to know him and work with him, and like you just said, learn from him. Like his knowledge is invaluable. Like, and people might have this, and I'll always say it's a false perception of like, or All Stars, it's pantomime wrestling, it's this style of wrestling. No, I love that clip that's been going around recently, Daniel Bryan's, like how much he learned from Butlins, and then you'd go do the town shows where you could really like wrestle a bit more seriously and stuff like that. And again, like, it was never, when people have that false perception of the camps, firstly, my question is, okay, have you ever done them? And who did you do them for? Because All Star, like Brian, the moment I got there, his thing was you got 15 to 20 minutes, action. He wanted that match going, and he wanted excitement, he wanted the people entertained, and then it's on you. If you want to just go out there and rely on bouillers and cowboys and Indians and stuff like that, that's your development. You're putting a ceiling on where you're going to reach. For people like myself, Daniel, Cash, John Schuyler, all these guys that came over, Hiromu Takahashi from New Japan, like, I remember, and Tony Spitfire, who's a British wrestler, doesn't get anywhere near the credit that he deserves for how good he is, particularly at the British style. Like, well, we're going to work hard, because we respect that man. B, we respect this company and how long it's been running, the people that have been through the door. And also for us, we wanted to learn and get better, right? We're only going to get better by challenging ourselves. You stay within your comfort zone, that's on you. And there's a way to meet that where it's like, okay, this, entertaining the people and convincing them of, what this is. And it could be people that have never watched wrestling before. And I always thought that was a great, valuable lesson. Because when I had my first tryout for WWE, I remember William Regal giving us this big speech before, and he said, one of the great pieces of advice he gave us was, don't just work for wrestling fans, because wrestling fans are going to be so critical regardless. But guess what they're going to do every single week? They're still going to tune in. They'll have their 2 cents to try and validate their opinion on social media, but then they're still going to tune in every single week. Work for the people that get dragged there, for the girlfriends and the dads who think this is all hokey and all fake, because if you can convince them and entertain them, that's how you make business grow. That's the difference between John going to his job on Monday and he's at the water cooler with his mate and, oh John, how was your weekend? I took the kids to wrestling, it was a load of shit, exactly what I thought, all hokey and stuff like that. Or him turning around going, actually I kind of enjoyed it. It was entertaining, and then there was bits where, God, they were proper leathering each other. You should bring, next time they're in town, bring your kids along, and then they go along as a group. So then that, like, 2 or 3 has now become 6, and that's how business grows. And I just thought it was one of the most, and to look at any wrestler in this country, that when Regal was saying that to us, in my head I'm just going, that's Rampage Brown, that's Rampage Brown, that's Rampage Brown. To me, and I've said, I'm very fortunate that he took me under his wing in 2010. But before that, I'd seen him wrestle. I'd actually wrestled him in 2009, and I started watching his stuff, and I was like, he's beyond good. Like, everything he does, going back to what I said about believability, I believe everything. Everything has a viciousness and an intent. And Drew McDonald was his, like, he'd kind of coached him and helped him. And when you watch Drew and work with Drew, it was the same. Like, I've never, like, especially when I was younger and I was like 19, 18, and you're in the matches with these grown men, and especially Drew, I think he was in his 40s by then. He had this career, and he's this grimace that he'll give you just before he throws this punch at your head, and you're like, holy shit. And then you wouldn't have known it. Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh my God, like, that's a pro. That's how to do it, where it's like, this looks like you're actually annihilating me, and the people are on the edge of the seat, and you're seeing those dads and those girlfriends who think it's all shit going. They are like nudging each other and looking at it. That's the wrestler I wanted to be. From that point on, like, I'll always say Rampage to me has always been the measuring stick of like that intensity and that believability. He's just supreme when it comes to that.
Incredible to watch. But again, with yourself, like, I think I've said it to you personally, like, just watching either of you two, no matter how long you've done this for, I think we always learn something just by watching you guys. Like, when you've been matches together or separately, it's from both sides of the coin, from the audience, where it's like, you'll see when Rampage throws a punch, people duck away and wince, and they're the ones who don't believe it.
Yeah.
You know, but it's the same way. I remember on Twitter, and I'm not a real Twitter guy, but there was a post that was done about a smarter fan who, I think he said he wanted to stab you by the end of the match.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is exactly how to get under the skin of them types of fans.
Honestly, that's like a career highlight for me. I remember the tweet. It was a guy he'd come to a Hope show, and he was with his girlfriend, I think he said. And he was worried because it was the first time she'd seen independent wrestling. Yeah. And he was like, God, I hope she enjoys this. And he'd done this post, and he said, like, a couple of the matches, like, she was there, but she wasn't there. She was on the phone. And he said that was until Nathan Cruz came out. And the way I just through my entrance and the little bit that I did on the mic before, apparently, like, she turned to him and went, this guy's a prick. And I'm like, straight away, I've got you invested. And I was working with Brady Phillips, another pro I think a lot of. And apparently by the time he did his comeback, like, this guy had said, like, his girlfriend was like, go on, smash him in, because she like wanted to stab me. She hated me. Like, I did my job. Like, that's what I'm there to do as a bad guy on that night, right? And to me, those are the best compliments ever. There was another one at Progress, and they said, like, she listed all the different heels at the time, but she was like, the only one that makes me physically want to hurt them is Nathan Cruz. And I'm like, good, like, that's because at the basis of this, you lay a lot from like top guys like Shawn Michaels and things like that. What we do is emotion, and I'm very fortunate I had people like Spud in my ear very early in my career when I was like 20, and he was teaching me that stuff. Like, you know, if moves in wrestling are like words, and if you could know every word in English vocabulary, but you don't know how to structure a sentence, it's just gibberish when you put it down on paper, right? If you know where to do them, why you're doing them, then it means so much more. And just picking that knowledge from him and then incorporating it into that stuff later on of like, okay, how am I going to get to this point so that when, you know, such and such hits me with this, we're going to get the biggest reaction. And the way is just like emotion. How am I getting to that point? What am I doing in this match to tell that story? So I'm really pissing these people off to get under their skin. And just looking at things in all forms of media, like I always use this example when I do seminars, is The Lion King. When I was a kid, it was one of my favourite Disney movies. And I always remember when Scar calls up Simba's mum and she has to walk past the hyenas. And even though she's the baby face in that, she has this smug look as she walks past them. And as a young kid, I was thinking, bitch. She's got this, you know, what do you think you are? Like, and so later in, like, when wrestling, and I'm always thinking about how I can get those emotions, those little character traits for Nathan Cruz. That's Nathan Cruz walking out in front of Progress, ICW, those type of wrestling fans, like those diehards that are overly critical of what we do. Like, well, Nathan Cruz, like, you know, that's, however I feel about their overly critical behaviour, personally, dial that up to 11. Do you know what I mean? And make it absolutely. So, I'm so above these people. Do you know what I mean? Like, these are
It's
so
just little
beneath.
gestures you give.
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly. Just little things like that, and like, while they're all there giving the middle finger, which as a British guy, I've always laughed at that. I'm always like, no, we do this. We flip two, not the one, and so they'd be giving me the one finger with a moody little faces, like like moody teenagers, and it's easy for me to just like laugh at you moron, and I'm walking past, giving the smug laugh and stuff like that. But I mean, yeah,
absolutely,
it was just
zero character works.
like it's finding those things of like, and again, things that annoy you, like, okay, that annoyed me, so I'm gonna do that, right? That's how I'm gonna make them hate me. And likewise, like, when I was there was a point in my career, I think it was like 2013, I was like, okay, Nathan Cruz is a heel. I know that character, whether I'm at Butlins, whether I'm at a town show for All Star or NGW, or if I'm at an adult only show for Progress, ICW. I know the three versions of that character, and I know the source material. The weak point I had was Nathan Cruz as a babyface. At that point, like, I'd predominantly worked as a heel. I knew that, but as a babyface, it was a flaw. And NGW had just written me out for like 8 months with the idea of me coming back as the big babyface to challenge Rampage. So, okay, I've got an entire summer with Brian that I normally would be working heel. And I was, Brian, do you mind if I work as a babyface this year? Sure, we got a bunch of Americans coming over, Nathan, you can work with them. And, I'd met Daniel the year before in 2012, but 2013, that was when we kind of got put together a lot. We were on the road together, rather wrestling against each other, or being a tag team together, or tag teams against each other. And John Scarlett was another guy, like, again, same, like, those would be the two Americans that I'd be working with the most. And just the three of us just, like, just hit it off, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'd already had that rapport with Daniel, but it was the first time I'd met John, and us three just like hit it off. But again, they helped me so much find that as a baby face. And my favourite baby face in history is Sting. So at first I was just like ripping everything off of Sting, right? But then I was like watching James Mason and like watch him again, believability and how he'll connect to an audience. And Robbie Brookside is another one, like a great lesson I had from Rob a few years before that. When you start with All Star, you wouldn't always just wrestle. Sometimes you'd referee, and I was refereeing a match. And there was the Liverpool lads. Anyway, the heels are cheating, and then Robbie comes in illegally. So me as the ref, I'm backing him off, and he's proper screaming at me, like, just turn around. You're like legitimately, like, as though he is wound up about it, and like proper fire, to the point I'm like, am I doing something wrong? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, juvenile as I was at that age. And then, but just after, like, I remember having a real brief conversation with Rob about it, and he was like, well, have you ever watched football? And because he's a big football fan, I'm not so much a big British football fan. I prefer American football. But he was like, you get, and he was like, you get wound up, don't you? You get fired. You want to have you'll argue with the referee because you're arguing your case.
Yeah.
And you should hear the guy who sits behind us at the football going at the line now.
Right. But it's legit, right? So you get that. So I was like, well, again, one of those moments where the penny drops and like, duh, yeah, obviously, like, why would you not fight your case just because you're the good guy and you've always got to be, okay, referee? And like, no, show that you've got fire, show that you've got fight, because that's what people really do want to cheer for. Like, they want to cheer for the hero that's going to point out the injustice. And again, something so small that I remember learned as a referee, but then when I became, like, when I was doing that run as a babyface for NGW, that was something. And that summer when I was really trying to find Nathan Cruz as a babyface, like, all those little lessons that I picked up was just like clicking into place. And I think that was why it was so easy for me. One, because I'd worked as a heel, so I know what I want a babyface to do. Yeah. I can now do that, right? I can put myself into positions and things like that. But having that fight, having that grit, having that determination, and not always being the guy who's selling and quarreling for the ropes and stuff like that can be important at the right time. But learning that from people like Robbie, from James, just either watching their work, being in the ring, picking their little brain, like just taking that little nugget here and there, and Brian, and going back to him, like asking him, like, what do you want at this point, and why should I be doing this? And he's seen, like I said, Daniel Bryan, Cash Wheeler, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, they've all come through All Star. Like, so he's, and then legends like a Rob Brookside, a Drew McDonald, Mark Rocco, like they all worked for Brian at some point. He knows his stuff. Owen Hart worked for Brian Dixon for crying
One of my
out loud.
favourite matches from then was Owen and Marty Jones.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Wow.
To this day, I still think it holds up.
It's incredible. Ahead of the time. And that's the thing. Like he'd learned that, and now he's just passing on that knowledge. And you know, he knew what he was doing. The guy, you know, he passed away as a millionaire. He's the only British promoter, to my knowledge, who became a millionaire from promoting British wrestling and was running consistently for 5 decades. I think they're in like their 55th year now. Amazing, just an absolute. Just can't say enough good things about him.
It's something you said. I think I remember you speak. Well, I do remember you speaking to someone backstage. Someone had asked for some advice or something, and you were giving the talk of something you don't like that aggravates you for their villain work.
Right.
And I was like, I hate people who chew loud. So literally just not even being involved in the conversation. Like, I'm going to chew my chewing gum to the ring because
Obnoxious.
Good,
man. I love that.
I pissed myself off doing it.
Good.
I was like, right, I'm stealing that. Like, and again, like a lot of what you're saying there. I know some of our trainees watch the podcast and listen to it. I try and say to them, like, find relatable things. So football's a great analogy I use a lot of the time. Or if you've been in a real fight, like, how would that feel? What would you do? Would you just lay down and drop to the floor? Or,
exactly.
you know, so many things there that you're saying are going to be relevant to anybody who's learning the trade. Like a free little seminar for you here.
I know, right? This is great.
You said that, well, like what you said there about being in a real fight. I mean, I had telling people to go out and look for fights. Don't ever do that. I mean, I'm much like I said, I came from a council estate. Like I scrapped a bit as a kid and stuff like that, quite often with my best friend Matt Myers. But you know, it's just part of that and growing up and going through testosterone and stuff like that. And always, I think for me as well, coming from a council estate, I don't mind mentioning this. My dad had an alcohol problem. My mum was doing what she could to keep. We didn't have money. Do you know what I mean? And for me, that's always been another part of that character, that I was always kind of the kid on the outside looking in. Yeah. And again, like, that can go one way or another. Like, the legitimate me was, okay, this is going to motivate me to go a bit further in life. And not that I'm knocking my parents or anything. I love them dearly. But I knew that I wanted something else than this. I wanted something beyond that. But then the other side to that is, you can be a total prick about this. Like Danny Lugo, Pain and Gain, a movie that I love, and his mentality of it was like, just bits that I took from that, where I was like, again, that's Nathan Cruz. He's the kid on the outside looking in, but like, that's how I can interpret it as be a bad guy with it. I can be a bit of a, just an asshole.
You'll step on anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Anything. I will do anything to get to my definition of success, whether it be winning this match or whatever it might be. Like, that's the idea where that came from. It's always those little things of like, and going back to what you said there about being in a fight. Again, not advising anyone to go and look for trouble, but getting into competitive sport. That was something I wish I'd done. I was a performer. I was big into acting as well. I met with my wife, but I wish now I look back and I go, I wish I'd gone into like even just kickboxing or boxing or rugby. Just if I'd played stuff like that with my mates, but never like got into sports. And I think that's a big part of it, because it teaches you to work as a team, which is vital to this job. Secondly, you have that aggressive competitiveness comes out of you. Like, when I started getting into the little things like that, just through the gym and meeting people, like bits of boxing and things like that, like, you kind of, again, that clicks a bit more. And like you said, ever been in a fight, like, again, I could relate back to like when I was younger and like, how did I actually react in this fight? And do you know what I mean? Like, I think those little things, again, sometimes can be lost, and 9 times out of 10, it's those things that define good wrestlers from the ones that people want to buy a ticket to see specifically wrestle. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a believability to them that you can't coach. It's just going to come through because some point in their life that's happened.
Yeah, it just clicks. Yeah,
and so it's muscle memory. It's acting. Like, I mean, that was something that I did learn from acting, was think back to points in your life where you felt an emotion, And is it an emotion that works for this wrestling match? Is there something that you can... Yeah, there's so many instances in my career and moments where I'm like, oh, okay, that's applicable to this, that's applicable to that. And which side of that story am I on? Am I the story that actually happened to me, or am I the story of the other person? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And having the wherewithal to be able to think like that. And it might sound like I'm overanalyzing these things, and at times I know I'm guilty of that. But I think that is why I am such a detailed guy with my wrestling and stuff like that, is because, you know, that's how I see it. It is physical theatre. It's a performance.
But it is all the little details that make the big story, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
whether it's little Easter eggs or just little twitches of the lip that go so far. I remember the nights were really helpful to me for such a long time.
Absolutely.
And I remember Julia saying, the way you sell is too much. It's too hokey. And there was a little exercise they drew of me to see what would happen in real life, which I hold dear. And
I can imagine that going
then
very
I got
well.
Becca to drive up to a nightclub where I was working on the door. And I said, back then I had a lot of anger issues, and I was like, right, I think I was off all the illicit stuff. I might have not been, I can't remember. But I said to her, just watch, and if you see me start to lose my shit, like, I want you to make notes of it.
Note it down.
But stop me getting
Notes.
arrested. Stop me getting arrested, because I'm on my last warning here. So, and she just watched this guy who pulled a little blade out, and she gave me every little detail of what I was doing before I flew at him. And one of the problems, and I don't mean this in a, oh, look at me type of way, but
Clothesline.
I find myself, I don't make eye contact when I get mad, and I start playing with my hands, and then I start saying things that you shouldn't be saying. Then when my hands drop and my eyes then look, it's like, right, and I find that the only thing I'd remember is the tunnel vision.
Yeah.
So she'd say that all these little things that were happening, I tried to put it into, especially
What
being
we
a
do.
villain,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
you know, in them feud things. And I think I'd love to hear your opinion. Too many people, when they're coming in, they maybe look at wrestling as their only source of how to do something, rather than like take inspiration from a movie, because you've referenced a couple of movies now, or real life football, other sports.
Yeah, they'll emulate what they're seeing on TV. A similar example, and again with selling, I'll always remember this. I always just take a turnbuckle, like, boom, big production, because that's how I'd seen it on TV.
Mr.
Right?
Perfect Sal.
Right, do you know what I mean? Like a big head snap and stuff like that. So, and you see that all the time with people in wrestling. I'll give two examples. The first one I'll give you is like a story myself. So my ex-girlfriend years ago, I'm walking down the street with her, I'm holding her hand, I'm talking to her, and she's not responding. Why are you not answering? It's because she could see that I was about to walk into a lamppost. And so as I'm talking to her, poof, like this, and I'm like, oh God, because I see stars for a moment. And then she's like, oh, you okay? Thanks for letting me do that. But at the time I remember thinking, okay, that's how I react to my head getting smashed into something. So why am I selling this turnbuckle like this big? Do you know what I mean? I understand we have to turn it up because we've got a town hall full of like hundreds of people. But okay, this is how I actually react. So let's turn that up. Let's. This is how I legitimately react to these things, and that was what, like, again, started making me analyse how I'd sell to be a bit more realistic and stuff. Like, I always loved how Sting took an eye poke. One of my favourite matches is Great American Bash 1990 against Flair when he wins the title. Watch when he gets poked in the eyes. Instead of doing I hate when people sell down as though they've just been punched in the face from an eye poke. What's wrong with you? Like, instead, Sting like does this thing where he's holding his and he's like pushing away, like, to see if there's anyone in front of him, and it's so legit. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what would happen. And then for the rest of the match, he keeps going back every now and then, like, because if you get poked in the eye, it doesn't just hurt for 10 seconds.
Nah.
Like, you still wink, you know what I mean, for quite a while. Like, he's still like this, and it's hard to open your eye. Just little examples like that I just thought, like, that's more believable in putting that into your selling. And again, I think a lot of people they sell how they've seen things do it on TV. One of my big pet hates in wrestling is when someone's down and then the guy just puts his hand on the back of the neck and the guy just comes up to him. Is this a legit fight? You're both in the wrong, in my opinion. Because firstly, if I'm in a fight and someone grabs me by the hair, I'm not just going, all right, yeah, come on, kick the shit out of me. I'm, fuck off of me. Do you know what I mean? First of all, I'm going to resist that. Secondly, have you ever tried to deadlift somebody's weight from the ground It's not as easy as just putting your hand on the back of the collar.
No.
I'll always, if you ever, you could cut to a match of mine right now, and I know full well I'll be squatted down, I'll have them in a front face lock, and I'll heaving them. And I've had people like rush up, and I'll put my weight back down. Like, no, because it wouldn't look like that if this is a real fight. Like, I want this to, every aspect of it, I want to look as legitimate as possible, so that it's like when you go to the cinema, right? If I go watch an Avengers movie, I don't want to see the strings flying Chris Hemsworth past a blue screen. I want to see Thor getting flying through the air with Mjolnir. And it'd be very easy for the production studios to go, yeah, but it's just a film. You know, it ain't real. Yeah, I know. But I want to suspend my disbelief.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, and why, and to me as a wrestling fan, because I'm still a fan of this, that's how I watch wrestling. Don't insult my intelligence. Like, I want to completely immerse myself in what's going on here, whether I'm, still a fan watching this now, or the stuff that I'm doing. I want it to all legitimately, like, no holes, no point where people go, yeah, see, knew it was all fake, knew it was all fixed and stuff like that. And yeah, just why I throw that word in there, like, fixed is I'll always use that. Anybody who's watching this who hasn't wrestled, it's fixed, it's not fake.
No.
Like,
it hurts too much to be fake.
Precisely. Like, exactly. Like, I explain this to people all the time. Like, we train to avoid serious injury, so we know where to throw a forearm and stuff like that, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt any less. I use that example. Drew was real good at throwing a punch and it barely skim you, but if he body slammed me, I'm getting winded, because that's just gravity. That just happens.
You can't switch that off, can you?
Exactly.
It'd be great if we could.
Yeah,
we'd all be able to
That'd
do
be
450s, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? You can get nicer rings to fall on that make it easier, but it hurts. There's no denying that. And like, I was, just before we started recording, you're 16 this year, did you say?
Yes.
So I started at 15, and yeah, you think you're invincible. And even when I got to 10 years in, I'm 25, and like, I still feel fine. This is good. And you hit 30, and it's weird. Something just happens where your body's going to go, everything's going to really start hurting now. And like, it's very humbling at 34 to sometimes wake up and be like, okay, this is going to take me a little longer before I can start walking vertically. Like, I get up to go to the toilet and
little sofa surfing.
Yeah, right. Like, I'll get out of bed and particularly I've had issues with the left side of my lower back, like going into spasm and stuff, and I'm like, oh, hold on, can't fully stand. So I'm like taking this shuffle to the toilet and having a little sit down wee there, just because I'm still waking up here, and I have a stretching routine that I have to do daily to alleviate my lower back pain and stuff like that, and all those things it just starts catching up with you. It's again why I wish more people would learn about why we do the things we do and build to them, because then you'll preserve your body so you can do this for longer. And like, touch wood, I've had a couple injuries, but I've not had anything serious that sidelined me for like a year or anything like that. And I've wrestled 1,900 matches, and I'd like to think I've done a good job in those matches. Like, I remember someone saying, like, writing a review about me, saying that I've not seen anything great from Nathan, but I've never seen him have a bad match. And like, okay, some people love my stuff, some people might not like. I'm more of a sports entertainer than I am a pro wrestler, so I understand that might not be his cup of tea, but that's a good thing to know, that he's never seen me have a bad match. I'd hate anyone to think like, oh god, that sucked. Do you know what I mean? Like, you'll at least get something good. Like, it might not be the best match you've ever seen, but you'll at least get something good. And for those people that do like my approach to wrestling, my sports entertainment style, and they do think what I do is great and stuff like that, all the better. Like, cool. As long as I'm not leaving anyone unhappy. That's my main goal when I go out there is, does it believe it? Do you enjoy it? The promoter's happy? We're safe? Sweet. Cool. We're getting paid.
Yeah. It's always a nice bit in there.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm like 2 matches in, going back to the whole wrestling's fake thing.
Right.
I'm 2 matches in, and I've already got a little clip that I can just send people for whenever they say that. So, first singles match I've done. Second, because I've worked a camp, and I'm taking a super kick on the floor, and you can see me really obvious, get the hand up ready to take it, and I've watched it back a few times. I just get kicked straight in the side of the face. I don't know if the mark's
still a little mark.
Is there still a little mark there? Yeah. And I've watched it back a few times, and every time I watch it, the thud just gets louder. It's like, yeah, this
Errors
It
can
hurts
happen.
too much to
That's
not
the
be
thing, like, mistakes can happen. And that's another
To be
reason why
fake.
I'm so big on professionalism. And to me, the ultimate question is, can you do the job? Can you do this job safely? Not saying you don't have a place in the job. There's other things you can do. There's ring announcing. You could be a manager. You could be general manager's character. There's other places if you still want to be a part of this show and this production. Absolutely. But ultimately, for me, that is the question. Can you do this job correctly, professionally, safely? Is everything going to, you and your opponent going to come out there looking good and also unarmed? And if the question is, oh, well, I'm not too good at doing a body slam because of this excuse. Well, if you can't do a basic body slam, get out of the ring. And I have no qualms in telling people that. And I'm not looking at anything other than that. I am looking at what you bring to the table as a professional wrestler. That is all I'm seeing, because this is the job. Shouldn't have left that door up when we've got flies coming in now. Pepper's going to start going mental.
We have a little thing where there's a fly as a guest on every episode so far. So
When we go back to film the intro, there'll probably be one there.
Yeah.
I understand, like, the merit behind, we should bring someone in to include these people. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But it should be for the right reasons as a whole, instead of just this will make us look better.
Like I said, I don't think anyone you shouldn't be excluding anyone for that.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is disgusting. Like, if you're going to exclude someone because of their sexual preference, you're a dickhead. That's the. But if you're excluding someone because they're bad at the job, it's just because they're bad at the job. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
But they're the ones who make all the noise online, aren't they?
But that's the issue, is that, like, I think too many times people are worried about, the perception that people put out on social media. The previous years that I've had a Twitter account, it's been run by someone else in the last, 5 years, just because I can't be arsed with it. It's a headache. A lot of it's not necessarily real. And my biggest example of that is, apparently, I didn't know this because I just watched the TV show, Jey Uso has a lot of heat. Apparently, he shouldn't be in the position he is. He isn't this, he isn't that. I wouldn't have known any of that because I just watched a TV show where I watch arenas and stadiums going mental.
Yeah.
And when I look up their, what they've made in merchandise and revenue, he's the top seller. So, you can have your pockets of opinion there, but when it really comes down to what this is and those people are enjoying themselves, those people are buying the merchandise, that company's making money, business grows.
Yeah.
Ultimately, then, okay, that's you're entitled to your opinion.
I don't know what's happened, but I mean, if it was something horrendous, absolutely, yeah.
God, yeah. There's a difference.
It's normally
between
trivial little things, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a big difference between like someone who has never wrestled thinking that somebody isn't a good worker. I hate when people who haven't wrestled use that term, because do you know what that means?
You don't know what you're doing, mate.
Do you know what it's like to take direction from a producer? Do you know what it's like to be told, oh, actually, you did have 10 minutes, but now you've only got 5, or that this match is actually just designed to make that guy look good? And don't like, do you know? There's so many elements that go into it that people don't know. They're just thinking that every match is an exhibition of this guy. No, it isn't. It isn't at all. Quite often, it's an entire show working towards something. Do you know what I mean? Or like certain segments or certain matches in a certain storyline are only happening for this reason.
Little cogs to make the whole wheel
exactly.
move.
And you can have your star rating in your opinion right now, but in a few weeks it'll make far more sense to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, and then if you just sit back and just go,
enjoy the journey,
see where they're going. Do you know what I mean? And I ain't saying that they're always right. Like, there's been fumbles that, at a WWE level, at a top stage level like that, there's always going to be fumbles because, and this is the other thing.
You can't make everyone a megastar.
And it's always, wrestling's so subjective.
Yeah.
It's a variety show, for God's sakes. Like, I know what I love about pro wrestling, and I know other people like different things that we do. I've got a friend of mine who, what match was it recently? There was 2 big dudes. It was Braun Strowman versus someone.
Jacob Fatu.
Might have been that, yeah. And he was most excited for that match. Because he was like, I just want to see 2 big guys smashing the hell out of each other.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like, as where me who loved like Eddie Guerrero and a Shawn Michaels, like and a Bret Hart, like I want to watch those type of matches, right? And then my favourite wrestler as a kid was The Undertaker with the big theatrics of the entrance and the character that was so, again, even though it was so outrageous, I was invested and I believed in it. And to me, like that's why star ratings should never, ever, ever, ever be taken so seriously, because
or
it's
influence your decision.
Yeah, or
it shouldn't
influence yours.
dictate your opinion on
It's
it.
It's one person's opinion.
If you're thinking about, I actually quite like that match, but some guy on the internet said it was only 2 stars. I actually hate it. Boo, get out of my building. It's like, what are you doing, mate?
But at least it's not at the level of football where they'll go out and fight about who's their favourite one.
Yeah, exactly. And about that'll never make sense to me. People
Football
getting
culture's
fights.
just
Yeah,
mental.
exactly. We'll get fights of a win and loss, or this player did that player. You mean that player who would happily
go to the other team
for the right amount of money?
Yeah.
Okay,
Actually,
that might be some misguided.
Actually, your football club's too close to us, so we'll batter you for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't get me wrong, I love football, but the culture of it sometimes makes
the tribalism's stupid.
I mean,
It's absolutely stupid.
some of my favourite movies are all about football tribalism and stuff.
Yeah. Green Street.
Green Street.
Fantastic movie, yeah.
But
We
again,
named-
a lot you can take for wrestling from them sort of movies.
We named
yeah,
the show
I've-
after Football Factory, didn't we?
Yeah.
I remember Green Street. There was a match I had with somebody, and it what was it, JJ? No, it wasn't JJ Gale. I'm so sorry, I forgot this guy's name. It was down in London somewhere, and I said, like, it was a no DQ I quit match, and I said, you ever seen Green Street? There's a moment right at the end where the guy gets like the nightstick out and he's real vicious, and there was just this moment, and I was like, we're gonna take that moment from this movie, like that's what we're gonna use that right there, and yeah, just again adding that sense of real aggressive violence to it. And that character that I was referencing in that movie was a piece of shit, and my character as a heel at that point was a piece of shit. Like that's what we're reflecting here. Do you know what I mean? I think that's another thing when people get a bit too critical about wrestling, of like, that was pushing the envelope a bit too much for me. Like, is it a reflection of society though? Because that is what wrestling is. It's a reflection of society. It's what's taking place, whether it be in legitimate competitive sport or whether it just be in the world in general. Everybody still talks about the Attitude Era. Some 30 years on, right? Almost now, 25 to 30 years.
When did the Attitude Era end?
I think it officially ended at 01. They all say after WrestleMania 17 it dipped down, but
it's like
I think
24 years ago.
I think it was like 2002 is where WWE officially kind of, it was like get the F out and then moved to WWE.
Whenever
and
John Cena said ruthless aggression, that
yeah,
one time.
exactly. 02. So that's where we're going from, right? But like all that still gets spoken about, and a lot of it was shocking. But it was because that was where the world was at.
Yeah.
If you was to look at any form of media at
Music
that time,
was the same.
Music,
Jerry Springer.
The Jerry Springer show. We mentioned South Park earlier. Even The Simpsons at that point was a bit more like on cuff of like things it would say and talk about. Again, nothing. I aren't saying in 2025 it's acceptable now, but this is what you have to look at is where was pop culture then, and then if we are looking at the world now and what pop culture and what society is like, if you have those represented properly within wrestling, there's a lesson to be taught. So yeah, if there is elements of society that you don't like, but it's represented by a scumbag heel piece of shit wrestler, as long as it isn't properly offensive, do you know what I mean? Like they are just being a dick, like yeah, go for it. Do you know what I mean? To me, I feel like that's a reflection of society, and as long as you're not portraying them to be a hero, you're teaching people a lesson there of like, this is good, this is bad. Particularly kids who are coming to watch the show, like you want to grow up to be like, you say when I used to do like the NGW Butlin shows, I want you to grow up to be like Justin Seisman and Robbie X. These are the heroes, these are the good guys with good morals and good virtues. Me and Lucas Steele are the ones who are cheating every match. We're the ones who are, being absolute dicks. We're trying to get under people's skin. It's such a simple lesson. I think at times people again lose sight of that in wrestling. Like that. Yeah, that's the point. You know what I mean? When people like, I could go into a bunch of examples of it that you look back on it now. Yeah, because you're looking back on it now. Yeah, that's the point. Like we have progressed as a society. So you can't, do you know what I mean? You can't judge what happened in 1999 in 2025. Like it's
got to take it for what it was.
What you should be going is, hey, isn't it good that it used to be a bit like this, but now we've got it to this point?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't have these silly bra and panties matches anymore. We actually have really good female wrestlers like a Bailey, for example. I'll shine her up to the end of the earth. I think she's
incredible,
amazing.
Yeah.
For my money, the best female wrestler in the world. Like, she's so good again at portraying emotion, whether she's a good guy, bad guy, athleticism's there. I believe everything she's doing. She's aggressive. Everything to me that makes a good professional wrestler, she exhibits. And yeah, if we went back to 1999, she might not have even got a look in.
No.
And that's a sad thing, right? That's a bad thing. We have progressed in those areas, but then for those areas that we still need to progress, as long as it's a bad guy that's portraying that, be a bad guy that's portraying that, because you're pointing out a fault in society, in my opinion, anyways.
So I say something very similar in that if a bad guy, you can be a bad person in life. You know, we've all got bad sides to us. We all do things that will piss other people off. But it's trying to, again, like you say with the kids, it's trying to show that the bad guy can win for so long, and you can cheat and get your way here and there, and eventually you'll get caught out, and eventually you're going to lose. So it is like a whole lesson.
And then the heroes and the lesson, that's something that, like, for me, myself, coming out of like the COVID years and then into where we are in wrestling now, when I first came back, I was still the bad guy, but I myself went through a lot personally, because this thing that I'd done since I was a teenager, that was my life, has gone.
Yeah.
Like, and it was a big thing, and like everything that happened with WWE, we'll get into that in a moment, kind of flooded back to me, and I had a depression, like a real bad depression with it, and I had a long journey of like self-reflection upon like my mistakes that I'd made, and I know I'd made some. I'll own them right now, and I'm probably still going to make mistakes, because that's being human.
Human nature.
It's human nature. You fuck up, you learn from it, or society progresses, and then you have a look at them. No, actually, yeah, see the point. And do you know what I mean? That's the spirit of debate and becoming a better person and stuff like that. And I was kind of like, I always say wrestling emulates reality, in that I ended up then getting booked as a good guy. I gave it, the audience most naturally changed me as a good guy pretty much everywhere, whether it be NGW, BWR for you guys, like anything I'd done previously, I was a villain. It was like, now it was just a WAW, it was the same thing, like, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is, again, like, teaching that lesson to people of, you can be a bad person, make mistakes, but that shouldn't be the end of the road. If you've got the right people around you, do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying I was like a bad person. I'd made some mistakes, yes, because I was young and stupid and whatever. But you do grow up and you do change, and with the right support around you, you can be a better person. And that's a vital lesson that everybody should be like. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't be held up on something, you know, a mistake you made a decade ago, something like that. Like, depending on, obviously there's the severity of it, there's degrees, but you know, like, if it's a juvenile stupid mistake that's, you know, it's not criminal activity, like, you can become a better person, because otherwise you're just teaching people there's no hope. You fucked up.
Absolutely.
You fucked up.
You're perfect from the minute you're born.
Exactly.
Otherwise you get cancelled.
Otherwise, you fucked up, that's it. So all right, so am I just giving up on life now? Do you know what I mean? Like, that, what a horrible mindset to have, like, and to put out into the world is just toxic. Like I mentioned, Matt Myers is my best friend, and since he stepped away from wrestling, he's got into doing a podcast called Renew, which is about people who've overcome addictions, and some of their stories and the things they do. Again, like, and so many wrestlers that we know, like, if you didn't forgive Eddie Guerrero and Shawn Michaels for their mistakes, you wouldn't have got their second half of their careers, which both of them, in my opinion, are better than the first half. Like, phenomenal stuff. Like, but are we gonna just go, oh no, you made Stone Cold made some very, very bad mistakes in his past? Are we just gonna always judge him on that, or we're gonna judge him on the person that he's become? Like, and if you can show that hero's journey within wrestling as well, I always think that does it teaches an important lesson that yes, you can make some mistakes, you can turn a corner. Exactly. You can turn a corner, and obviously through heel turns, you see the other way, right? But ultimately, you always end up like the egg on the face at some point or another. Even that long-lasting bloodline story that we saw with Roman and stuff like that. Eventually, it got to WrestleMania 40, and it got to that moment with Cody. And I mean, I'll be damned if there wasn't thousands of people in that stadium, some of them in tears of happiness.
Yeah.
Again, trust the process, trust what they're teaching you. And then also at that point, that rapport that Roman had built up with the audience of being a consistently great performer and always making them feel something where it's like, yeah, welcome back, dude. We acknowledge you. We love you. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it again, just that hero's journey. I think it's such an important. Carl Jung is a great philosopher that I've discovered in like the last 5 years, and these whole things about the hero's journey, and a big part of that is about making mistakes. You have to make mistakes to learn.
You have
from
to.
them.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just cruising along in life and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cruising. There we go.
yeah. I mean, I know for myself, I've made loads, and you know, I'd like to think now I'm not so much of a bad person. Like we all have to do it because you know it's
and some
it'd be boring if we didn't as well, wouldn't
exactly.
it?
It's part of growing. Some people won't make as many as others, and some will. You know, that's the thing. Like some will make more than others. Some will make, and it depends what life throws at you and how you react to it. And also again, just like how the world's going to change. There's a big part of me that knows full well that at some point cancel culture is going to come around and cancel itself out because you're going to get, and rightfully so, you're going to get held up for pack gang mentality because that's you've targeted one person online and as a group gone after them. You know, sometimes absolutely unjust. Like online was not the place for it, and that's toxic. You've made something worse. You have worsened the situation, and absolutely. Like particularly people I know who've dealt with addictions and substance abuse, and then they got called out on certain things like that, and I'm like, oh, like you should be calling this person out, but this person who's dealing with an addiction.
Yeah, I was literally going to say it. There's one or two people through wrestling who have been cancelled, and okay, I will say from my addictions that I've had, it's kind of a choice that you take a pill or you take whatever. There's an element of choice to it. With mine, it was when I broke my back, so a lot of strong painkillers, sleeping stuff, and then you needed stuff to wake up, and they weren't prescribed the stuff to wake you up. So you know, I chose, right, okay, I need to be alive, I need to be doing this. So you take these certain things, but at the same time, and I'm not justifying it in any way, but it's a necessity at that point.
Yes,
you know, and
I've seen that happen to so many people.
Yeah, it's such a, you know, my biggest lesson learned. My oldest did something at school where we were questioned about it. Like, my dad's a bit of a zombie, but then when he started using cannabis rather than the stuff the doctors give him, he's a dad again. You know, I can't remember the exacts of it, but those pills, I'd be sleeping all day, you know, and was I really present, you know? So you can't, I don't think you can cancel somebody on what they've done under them addictions, because yes, there's a certain choice, but it's not you doing it.
I have an uncle who's still to this day struggles with alcoholism, and I know when he's had a drink because he's a completely different person, like how he talks, if I'm more emotional and things like that. And it's, again, I think that's why I get so passionate about that, is that I just feel like if any of you try to judge my uncle for that, do you know what I mean? I'd be furious, because how dare you? I know the good, kind-hearted, genuine soul he is, and everything he did for me when I was younger and things like that, and I can't look past that just because of this blemish, because I know that's not he's not in the driving seat anymore. And I've seen that happen to friends in wrestling, and and this is why I'm happy to talk about it, because I know that there'll be plenty of people who might see this and my opinions on this, disagree and attack me for it, and like, again, I just pray for you that your close friends or your family never go through it, because if they do, and you're the support system, it's going to end tragically. And I know it's going to end tragically because I've seen it happen. Be more empathetic. Life isn't, you know, like, some people just struggle with life. Like, I'm quite thick-skinned. I've been around situations from younger, things like that have made me who I am, that make me more thick-skinned to those type of things. Some people just find it so difficult. I found it extremely difficult in like 21, 22, having to get up and do normal jobs. And that might sound stupid to somebody, but for somebody from 19 who was a full-time professional wrestler and just been living the dream, and then, you know, I'd never had, and then when we bought this house, again, still a full-time pro wrestler, So then for me to first wake up on a Monday and go, oh, this is what it's like to hate your job.
Yeah.
And know that for the next 5 days I've got to do this. Like I am imprisoned to this. And that's genuinely how I felt, imprisoned. Like that was, oh God, it was so challenging for me. Like it was so, and that'll sound stupid to somebody. Do you know what I mean?
But it's not their life, is it?
Exactly. Equally to them, the idea of being on the road for 3 weeks straight. I mean, in the summer, 6 weeks straight.
Yeah.
7 weeks straight. Sorry, 6 days a week, living out of a suitcase in a chalet or in a travel lodge, and not really getting much sleep, and I mean, still go to the gym, set a ring up, or entertain people, and do all. To some people, that'll sound like, Jesus Christ, that's a challenge. But I thrived off that. That was like, I can do this all day long. Like, this is great for me. Everybody's challenges are different.
Yeah.
And you need to respect that. You need to empathize to that, and you appreciate that. Like, again, something that I feel I was forced to learn through those lockdown years, and I'm so glad I did, because there was a big part of me, because I'd lived my dream. When people, I'd see people doing the 9 to 5, and to be part of me, but well, get out. You know what I mean? Like, that's a privilege that I'd had. That I was at the right place at the right time, and the right opportunities and the right people came along. It could have very easily not worked out that way, and I could have been in a job where I did have dreams, and it just faded because I had to get this job, and this job took over to make sure that I was paying bills and things like that. And it was a great humbling experience, and again, one that, as difficult as it was, I wouldn't change it, because I look at the person I am now for it, and I'm so grateful that I had that turnaround, that again just made me view life and the world and people's situations differently. Again, just lessons that I feel like more people just be empathetic to people, man. Just be empathetic to people. You don't, particularly wrestling fans that just see the character. They just see those 20 minutes that see their wrestler in there, or even online, and 9 times out of 10 that's a work as well. Like, you don't know that person. You don't know the past. You don't know what they're currently going through. Like, and there's a lot that that a lot of people have that I've seen happen. And again, that was one of the reasons why I decided to cut off social media at one point, when I was like really going through that challenge of like, wrestling's just a part-time thing that I do now for the first time in my life, and that was a big adjustment for me. Like, and I kind of felt defeated by it, a bit of a failure, and then again, like, everything that had happened with my WWE medical in 2016 kind of came flooding back, and I was just, God, again, makes me so grateful that I'm wearing this ring, that she stood by me, and she was my support. And Daniel, who I've mentioned, he was there for me. Like, when I stopped believing in myself, he still believed in me. Matty kind of offering his like insight from his industry, like his work and stuff like that. And not that I had any addictions or anything like that. I was just depressed. Like, I was in a deep slump of depression, because I remember just thinking like if this is my the rest of my life, I don't want to do it. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want to do it. Like, it was like, this is a video game, I'm turning it off and bored. This isn't enjoyable anymore. Like, this is shit. This is just waking up, paying bills. I'm getting an hour or so with Gemma on an evening, ain't enough. I barely get to see Pepper. Like, all those things. It was like, and for what? Like, at least with wrestling, when that was happening, I could justify it by saying, this is what you wanted to do since you were 10 years old. So, okay, it's challenging, but this is the life you chose. When it's forced upon you, it's something so different. It's a different animal. And again, to a lot of people listening to this, it'll just be white noise, because it's what they've dealt with, and I get it, and I empathize with you more so than I'm far more patient now at, like, if I go to Starbucks, I'm like, that's this with pouring cream, for Christ's sake. God, can't even get this job right. God, you got no hope. Like, now I'm far more empathetic with that situation of like, God, it must be mundane doing, making 1,000 cups of coffee a day. And do it, knowing that you've got to do this the next day and the day after that. Like, and
again, all we're seeing is part of that person. That may be a character that they have to put on to go to work, isn't it?
Well,
you don't know what's going on in their lives.
You have to. You're dealing with people. Like, you wipe your feet on the way in, you wipe it on the way out, right? Well, the person who's coming to buy an Americano doesn't know what you're going through and doesn't need to know, and you shouldn't be. Like, again, you're dealing with the public. I know when I worked at gym reception, and again, I was going through that, but people come in, hey, how's it going, mate? You all right? And like, I'm putting on a brave face, and we've got 2 for 1 on the creatine or whatever it might be, and I'm just having a chat with them, But deep inside of my head, I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm working behind the counter at the gym.
Yeah.
Like I was, I was on path to WWE just 3 years ago, and now I'm doing this. What the fuck? Like, just biggest. But again, it just taught me such a valuable life lesson to just be empathetic towards people, and when I can see people that not just need the help but want the help. Okay, if I can in any way, shape or form, what can I do? Like, do you know what I mean? Whether it be, here's this book that I read and it helped me. It might help you. Actually, it will, but it might resonate with you. And if I can do that, I want to. If I can help people within wrestling, you know what I mean? God, I want to, because again, I look back on all the people that helped me, that all-star team that I've mentioned. Like the first summer I'd go out, I'd be wrestling a Japanese guy called Shadow Phoenix, who was trained by Ultimo Dragon, and he was a different approach to wrestling than I'd ever had. So I was learning from that. And as soon as I come back from the curtain, Rampage is waiting. Okay, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. Okay, thank you. And then we'd get in the Beast, and I'd film all my matches. The Beast was the big 8-seater car for people who don't know. And I'd record all my matches, and I'd sit in the back with Robbie Dynamite, who, when I used to go watch All Stars as a teenager, he was my favourite wrestler. And we'd watch the match back and it'd pause that. Nate, have you ever thought about doing it like? And he'd critique me, and I'd have Robbie Brookside there occasionally. At that point, he wasn't as frequent on the team, but if I ever had him there, but Rob, like, how do you do this? He was the one who taught me how to do a European uppercut with like vicious intent and stuff like that, and Frankie Sloan, God, I could go on forever for all these guys but just being able to pick those brains, and Brian himself, you get to the end of those 6 weeks. So like the next day, I'd be able to go out and correct those mistakes, and then come back and it'd be like, okay, yeah, you corrected that, but then you did this, and this. Do you know what I mean? And the end of those 6 weeks of that first summer that I did for All Star, I remember just coming out of a completely different wrestler. Like, because I'd learned so much on the job from all these different minds. And again, that's why I try my very, very best. If people want it, I will offer it, because
it is a great segue, because one thing we want to speak about is the guys you've trained. So your offering of help is like, I don't even know if you realize how much you do it. I know you obviously do. But like I've said, like, just, I've been there listening. One match we had at the engine shed, so front face lock on the floor, it was just such a small detail. I'd hold him down as if it was legitimate, and you did the face lock to me and just turned my face to the camera. I was like, why have I never done this? Just little things. So like, just little things like go such a long way. When Ian said, oh, do you reckon we'll get a chance to speak to Nathan? Because the guys you've trained who work for Fight Factory every week are brought up your connection with them.
That's cool too.
So just if we can get into a little bit
just
about...
like to quickly off topic, it's the first time we've actually been on this plan, because we've ended up talking to fucking Socrates over it. This plan's got like meal deals now. We'll just skip straight to near the bottom and just go to where is it, advice. There you go,
We've done that bit.
But
like the guys you've trained, Reese, Rogan, Jack, HMD, Quill, Scott Bell, Ace. You've had a part to play in Ace, and
he's like my first like wrestling student that I actually got out on the scene. I'd say it was Ace. Like, he started with me in late 2013. Started getting him out on the scene in 2014, doing a few, and then I was good in. I was in with Mega Slam, so 2015. I was like, can you use my lad for the summer? He needs experience. He did that. He joined All Star in 2016, did a summer with us as well. Like, again, he's like the first student that I had that I was like, okay, because I was developing as a coach as well. Do you know what I mean? So that was like the first time I was like, here's someone I've trained from like bumps to, and I want to put out there and put my name to. Reese and Rogan, obviously, again, like, but they came a bit later on.
There's Kaz as well as another one who's brought up.
I mean, Kaz was more, I just gave him advice. Do you know what I mean? Like, we were around each other. At that point, I was like, I just teach fundamentals. I'd be the coach that at the sessions would be used as the example. I'm teaching this, Nathan getting, and then, they'd use me as the example. So Kaz was a bit different. It wasn't like I took him from the ground and taught him to train. But yeah, I've definitely, I mean, he's a good friend of mine, and
Yeah.
these things that we just have conversations about wrestling, right? 9 times that is where a lot of this comes from. It's not necessarily like you learn the physical side of it, but a lot of it's here. It's how you get to it, what you're doing, and why you're doing it. And yeah, he is someone who I've been able to impart that knowledge that, and again, it's just experience that I've picked up. Do you know what I mean? It's not, I have to say, some of them will be like, this is how I see it, but a lot of it is just like, okay, Rampage taught me this, James Mason taught me this, Drew McDonald taught me this, Rob Brookside taught me this, Tony Spitfire taught me this. Like, I'm just passing on what I've learned from other people, you know. And in recent years, again, coming out of COVID, I've been very, very blessed to have FTR really look at my matches more frequently. I mean, Daniel, he has done for a long time. He'll always like pass his bits to me, but getting access to Dax recently in recent years has been a game changer, because his mind is like, it's like when you meet the professor. You know what I mean? Like, oh wow, okay, I thought I knew some stuff, but like, you really, really do get, like, yeah, you can, things that I wouldn't think about that he'll find in my matches. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, of course. Like, why have I not thought of that? And again, it's always kind of been like when Cash gives me feedback, but yeah, just again, if I can take that knowledge then and pass it on to a Reese and Rogan, who particularly I know how much they look up to FTR. I'm like, well, I've learnt this from who I believe many believe is the best tag team in the world. You guys want to be a really successful tag team. Here's what they taught me. Here's, when I was doing the Origin at Progress, so they were like 2016, that was when there was still the Revival, but that was when people were starting to notice, like, you seen what they're doing in NXT because it's next level. And I was like, okay, I want us to be that at Progress. So, hey, Dan, like, how are you approaching this match? And he'd give me like ideas of like, okay, this is what we try to do to make our baby, because as heels, it's all about how you make your baby faces look good. They need something to overcome, right? And for you to gain heat from that, you need, again, to make them look good. And he'd just give me so many great examples on how to do that and how to build to moments and things like that. And again, if I could then pass that on, like I put it into practice, I see how it works, and then we go to a Butlins, and okay, so now it's me and Lucas Steele, and we're against Adam Axted and Robbie X. Okay, lads, this is how I figured this bit out, and I learned it from these guys, and let's put this together and make a thing. This should come. Chasing them flies, Pepper.
Yeah, it's on the guys you trained. It is your name is regularly brought up. Whether you're on our shows or not, it's hi mate, very regularly brought up, and I don't know. Again, if any of our fans watch this, that they need to see the person behind it in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
So,
honestly, I mean, that means a lot to me. Like, I love seeing those little bits of, I guess, my DNA, I guess, in little places like that where I see that come through and people acknowledge, like, oh, it was that. I mean, it's very flattering, but it isn't why I do it. Truthfully, why I do it is because I have had the best life doing British wrestling, and then that was never my goal. My goal was to be a WWE superstar. I got into British wrestling for that, right?
Yeah.
And on the way, I madly fell in love with this, and I've seen it done to a professional standard where I know you can make a full-time living out of this because I've done it. Like, this, this mortgage, my cars that I've had, they're evident to that I was able to supply a life that people think, oh, you can only do wrestling part-time. Like, no. There is a path to this if you do it right. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would, at the height of my, like, I'd say where my career in the UK peaked, NGW had local TV in like 7 different areas of the UK, and I was their champion. So I was learning how to work TV. Then, as I mentioned, I was doing the Origin stuff at Progress, and I was working regular on an internet-heavy audience, do you know what I mean? Like, getting that attention on me. But then I'd still maintain a full-time schedule for All-Star Wrestling, where I was still getting to work Butlins, I was still getting to go to town halls, I was still getting to wrestle. It literally, in the summer, one of the runs that you do, you do 2 on the Tuesday, 2 on the Wednesday, 3 on the Thursday. You'd have Friday off, but I'd always have an indie. And then 2 on the Saturday, 3 on the Sunday, you'd be off on the Monday, right? That was just one of those, and you're setting the rings up, you're tearing them down, and you're doing 20 minutes on those shows. Like, I remember this Canadian wrestler called Brody Steele. He did that run with us once, and he said, I don't know how you do it. That my music started playing on that third show on the Thursday. I had tears in my eyes. That was crazy. I was like, I'm not joking. It was because it was physically demanding, but I mean, when you love what you do, and particularly again when I was that young, it didn't matter. But even later, when NGW had the Butlins runs, and I remember Max Stead joining us, and he was like, Nate, how have you done this for like 10 years? I'm shattered. And that was like week 1. I was like, don't worry, mate, your body will get callous to it. You'll get used to it. And when we did that, we was doing that 6 days a week for 7 weeks. We'd have the Monday off, but Megaslam would have Bridlington, which is 40 minutes from this house. So I could have been at home, but I always chose to go and do that because I just wanted to stay consistent. And again, there was a lot of young talent that were coming through that I wanted to work with and be like, hey, like if I can just offer you this little thing. And a lot of what my advice is about how to have longevity in this and how to do this as a full-time job, because that's what I wanted this to be. I didn't want it to be part-time, and I'm not knocking people who do that. Like I said, Matty, my best friend, it was his part-time job, and that was where he was happy to be. It's cool, like that's fine. But for me, like, this was it. Like, this is what I want to do. So how do I do that? And again, being around all those guys at All Star and learning those little things from them, it taught me so much on, okay, this is how they call it, the job. Like, this is the job. This is that way of life. And I try to impart that wherever I go and show that to people. Like, you can still build an online profile, but you can also be doing this. And if you can find that fine mix where you can adapt to any show, you'll always have a job. You'll always, you know what I mean? Like, don't have a hole in your game. Like, you have your strength. My strength's been a heel, I'd say, and I'm a good talker. But I don't want to go in there and people say, I need someone for a British Holds wrestling match, and me shit the bed. I want to be able to go out and do everything. Like, I need someone to do comedy. As long as I'm the guy getting my egg on the face, I can do that. I need a baby face, I can do that. I need a heel, I can do that. I need a guy to get squashed, I can do that. I need a guy to squash someone, I can do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, tick every box and make yourself marketable. I know one of the big things that Brian loved about me that offered me that opportunity was, at the time I had the sunglasses and the feather boas and I was the prima donna, right? And Brian just saw that and was like, I can put that in the poster
material.
And within no time I was on the front cover of the magazine, and there was one of the front covers of the magazine and it was just me and Spud. Like, that was the magazine. It was just us two, and I was like, wow. Like, there was a big moment, because again, I used to go watch All Star when I was like 13 at the Hull City Hall, and I remember looking at the back of the magazine, to have the list of the dates, and I said to Matty, I was like, if we ever want to make it as full-timers, like, this is where we need to be. Look how much they're wrestling. Like, I just instantly, like, that was my ambition within the UK. Like, this is going to be the closest thing to replicating a WWE schedule of being on the road and entertaining, like, people, not necessarily always wrestling fans. This is where I need to be. So to get to that point that Brian did, he told me the last time I saw Brian, he was real complimentary, and Brian didn't throw out compliments that often. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he would just be, okay, very good, and you wouldn't always know, like, and unless it was bad. Come back, what the fuck was that? Fucking shite.
I had one of them once.
Yeah, no, I've had them as well. Like, he you know, but then, yeah, it was at Dudley, and he was, blessing me, at this point he was badly, he had the oxygen tank and stuff, but he just took me to a side, and it was me and Joel Redmond, which again, like, you know, I'm working with somebody very, very good there, and he just told me, like, he said, you know, you've always been one of my favourites that came through here, and just, my show's always better when you're on it. It just meant so much to me, because again, that was, if I was to look at my goal within the UK, that was it. It was All-Star. It was to get to All-Star Wrestling. That was why I wanted to be. I know, regrettably, maybe I did see that as just, not just as a stepping stone to get to WWE, but that was what I was looking at as in career point of view. But, you know, now older, and I look back on it, and I just realised just how important it was to me in my life, and giving me the life I have now, as I mentioned earlier, and moulding me and things like that, and it opened that path up to WWE. Like, I know full well if it weren't for Rob Brookside, I wouldn't have had that WWE tryout, and then I wouldn't have got in front of Regal, who then ultimately led to, you know, what happened with the NXT UK thing and stuff like that. Like, and yeah, just, yeah, I've gone on a tangent. I can't even remember my point here. I was just got a bit emotional thinking of Brian.
Well, it's you spent so long with him. It's
Yeah, it is.
inevitably gonna
Yeah, it was.
touch a chord, isn't it?
Yeah, it did. The day he passed, it was. I was wrestling Will Ospreay at Progress, so you imagine you've already got like a bit of pressure there because like I love telling the story as well. I'll tell about me and Will because I, as a human being, I've got so much respect and love and admiration for him. I'll tell you where that stems from, but like, yeah, that day there was already a bit of pressure on me because I definitely had like a bit of self-confidence issues coming out of the lockdown and after that, like, because wrestling had changed and stuff like that, and I know like people are ready to see new talent, so who gives a fuck about this guy from, you know, was at his peak like 6-7 years ago, right? So it was like, I've got something to prove here and stuff like that, and God bless Lee, like, I don't think he knew the magnitude of the news that he was dropping, but he just said, "Oh, Niff, you might have known him, but Brian Dixon just passed away." And I was about to go do a photo shoot for him and like a talking head thing, and I just froze, and I was just like, I knew it was coming. Like, a few of us knew it was coming. Like I said, I'd seen him recently. I knew he wasn't well, but it was still like, I just had this, and I went to the toilet. I just broke down. I was crying my eyes out, and then I got a phone call from Skylar. He was crying as well, and we were both just like. And then I had to get into headspace. Do you know what I mean? I'm about to go wrestle one of the best professional wrestlers in the world, and I've got to deliver here. And then that was it. That was what was getting me through. Was like, I was the first Progress champion because of Brian, and the wrestler I am now because of Brian. I owe it to him to go out there right now and give this the best performance, the one that he'd be proud of, the one that this audience is going to be proud of, the one that Lee's going to be happy with. You know, like, I just wanted it. Just let's fucking smash this for him. It took a while before, and then like it was like after that weekend, which is like, so it was 2 years ago because it was the bank holiday weekend. It was Strong Style 16 tournament, and I got to come home and it's kind of sunk in a bit, and I was like, fuck, like, and then I started reflecting on that point in my life, and just all of those guys. I remember I bought Frankie Sloan, like he loves like nice whiskey, so I bought him a nice bottle of like a limited edition Jack Daniels, just because I realised, like, fucking hell, like when I was 20 and I didn't have a car, he was driving me all across this country so that I could gain experience, so that I could earn money, and he was just reffing these shows, and he'd been around like 27 odd years at that point, and the other good thing that I always picked up from Frankie was that I in all the years I was around him, I've seen him have one bad day. One day where he was in a mood. Never. And if anyone had a reason to be annoyed, we'd have, like I said, I'd fallen out with Brian. We all had like little moments where we were fucking ranting about something or other. I never really got that from Frankie. And now I look at it now, I'm like, what an example, what a role model he was, like, because he was just loving being out on the road and doing his thing, right? And it was a big thing where I just really started reflecting upon that point in my life. And yeah, just like you said, Brian was such a big part of it. He was so influential, and yeah, that match with Will was so special to me for so many reasons. And yeah, for being that day that we lost Brian, but yeah, he was in my heart the entire time I was out there. Like, he saw something in me, and I'm going to show these people why the most successful promoter in this country in history saw something in me.
Pressure creates diamonds, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've always kind of thought I've done well under pressure with that type of thing. Like, yeah, just as long as you give yourself that moment, breathe, find that self-belief. Yeah, I do when I first wrestled at WWE. I was against the Usos, and it was at Liverpool Echo Arena. And before I went out, you know, you're in Gorilla. Like, I was teaming with Justin Sizemore, who at that point had not been wrestling long, and he was like, kind of hoping, like, this going to get me through this. So I'm like, fucking hell. But like, I got in the ring, and they were playing the advert for like the WrestleMania 30 DVD Blu-ray, and so the lights were out somewhat, and I just had this moment where I was like, for 8 years you fucking grafted at this. You deserve this. Show them you know what I mean. Like, and it might sound cockiness, it might sound arrogance, but you need that self-belief. And it's pivotal moments like that, like, they can't be doubt in your head. That's intention, man. That's you taking the universe and saying, like, this is this is it. This is why I've been fixated on this and I've worked towards, and I deserve this. And it was like that moment where it overcame me, and I'm like, okay, yeah, let's own this. And it was that same match at Progress with Will.
I think if you show doubt, everyone can see it. Like if you
Yeah.
feel it, everyone can see it. It shows.
Yeah,
So you have
100%.
to. I mean, I know I'm going to speak for my wife here, and she hates me doing this, but I know we've both been saying for so long, and when we heard about the WWE thing, like we were like, if anyone deserves it, you know, there's a group of people in British wrestling, and I think you're right up there where we've always said you should be there. You know,
Yeah.
like, and she did a social media post the other day. So big champions of you and getting to where we think you deserve, and you know where I think a lot of people think you deserve to be.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, what happened with WWE, it was just one of them things. And I look back at it now, I'm like, God, I wish I reacted better to that. But it was difficult, you know, like I'd been on this path for so long, and you trust in the process, Now you're here, you've done, I think I'd wrestled 2 or 3 matches from at this point. And I'd gone and done my talking head, and I remember the producer, Joe, who was like, you were the best one. Like, he told me as soon as we'd cut, it was like, you've been the best at this so far. Like, so I was like, I'm in a good place here, didn't think. Then you go do your medical, and you find out you've got high blood pressure, and we can't honour this contract. And like, what? Like, within a sentence, that 10 years of hard work, that all those things, it just gone. And for me at 26, to try digest that was so difficult, and it took a long time for it to sink in. Like, it wasn't until, because like after it, like both Regal and Robbie they were like, you know, we might be able to sort this out, like go see your doctor. And do you know what I mean? And my blood pressure reading back here was fine. They said, oh, there was probably anxiety, just a lot of ups and downs on it, but ultimately they had to announce the brackets, and that was when I got taken out of the UK tournament. And it was like, I remember getting that email, and I was in bed, and I just read it, and I put it down. I laid there just staring at a wall for God knows how long, and I was like, come on, you got to get up. I got up, made myself breakfast, was trying to go on my day, and I went to text Dan about what had happened. And as I was texting Dan, I just overcame, started crying my eyes out, and it kind of hit me. And then I'm a big believer now in what you put out to the universe is what you'll get back. Yeah. I became a very negative person. I was bitter. I wasn't doing things to help myself either. Like, the only time I was happy was when I was away wrestling, because I was still getting to wrestle, and I'd come home and I couldn't get that out of my head. Like, fuck, you were this close to everything you ever wanted, and how was it? It's something out of your control, and I couldn't get to sleep, so I would come home and I would just sit up drinking bourbon neat with tramadol, which isn't a good, in a good mix whatsoever. But
in the moment, it was right.
It was the thing was like, it's the only way I can get to sleep.
Yeah.
So I'd sit exactly where you are right now, AJ, and I'd get in at like 2 a.m. Jem would be asleep. She didn't know about. I think she just thought I was drinking. She didn't know this about the pills with it and stuff. And I was just doing that until I'd be like, okay. Well, I'd be like going up the stairs, like fucking. And I remember just thinking, this is fucking ridiculous. What am I doing? I got to like towards the end of the year, and I started to knock that on the head. Well, the pain pills I did, the drink I didn't. And then 2018, WOS happened, and another thing that happened was Lucas Steele. He was training with us back in like 2012, 2013 when I was like an assistant coach, but he decided, and he stepped away, and for whatever reason he was now coming back, and he asked me to help train him. I'm now the head coach, and I just saw, here's this guy, 6'4", 240 pounds, charismatic, good looking. He gets it because he loves it, and he was around it when he was very young, and it was just like, okay, now I have something to put my energy into. And through WOS, like, we started having Gabe Kidd on the road with us for NGW on the Butlins camps. We started having Kip Sabian with us on the road. And I was like, okay, now I can offer something to you guys. Like, you 3 in particular. Like, we also had Sid Scala, but he was there already. He didn't need my help. As well, these 3, there was just little bits that they still can help. Max did another as well, and they all had great attitudes. They all wanted to learn. I'm like, okay, Miles, I can help you guys. And that just revitalized me, and then I got over all that. And I was happy again. I was like, yeah, this is great. I'm a full-time wrestler. I'm on national television now, and I'm helping these guys who are probably going to go on to do great things. I'm not saying I was right, but I might have an eye for talent. And
That's mum ringing me.
and then
Just gonna have to ignore her.
yeah, we got to. It was just like I said. Then the lockdown hit again, and it was like all that came down again. Just where it was like, God, if I'd not failed that medical, my financial situation would be different.
Join us next week to hear the second part of this interview. Really, we do appreciate your time in listening to these podcasts, which we're just still kind of winging. If you could give us 5 stars, if you could share, and all the other stuff we ask you to do is very much appreciated. It takes 2 seconds and doesn't cost a penny. See you next week.